Today in this session, I am going to discuss about the behaviorist approaches of teaching English language. But before the discussion on the topic, let's get a quick idea about behaviorism. What is behaviorism in psychology? Behaviorism, it is an idea that behavior is acquired through conditioning, and it is a measured behavior by a learner's response to the stimuli. Now, what is conditioning? What is conditioning in psychology? The general meaning of conditioning is to affect or control the way that someone or something behaves, means to control the behavior of someone. And behavior psychology, we can say that it is a theory that reaction means response to an object means stimulus by a person or animal. It can be modified by learning. So learner's response to stimuli, it can be reinforced using positive and negative feedback. That is called reinforcement. And there are two types of conditioning: operant conditioning and classical conditioning. You must have read about this conditioning in your psychology books. In other words, we can say that behaviorism is a theory of learning which states that all behaviors are learned through our interaction with the environment through a process called conditioning. And in psychology, the term behavior, it has different meaning. It refers to an organism's external reactions to its environment. Other aspects of psychology, such as our emotions, thoughts, and other internal mental processes, don't usually fall under the category of behavior. Our emotions, thoughts, and mental processes are excluded from the category of behavior in psychology. And thus we can say that behavior is simply a response to environmental stimuli without reference to thoughts and feelings. It's advocated by famous psychologists such as John B. Watson and B. F. Skinner. Behavioral theories, it dominated psychology during first half of the 20th century. Other things in behaviorism, we discuss about some terms such as stimuli, feedback or reinforcement, and response. Let's take a quick look. What is the meaning of these terms? First one is stimulus. What is stimulus? Stimulus, any change in an organism's environment that causes to the organism to react. Organism means any living thing. And it is a fancy way of saying cause. It is in more attractive way we can say the stimulus is a response. And any change in organism's environment that causes to the organism to react is stimulus. So stimulus is a singular form. Its plural form is stimuli. An example of stimulus: an animal is cold, so it moves into the sun. When animal feels a cold, it will move towards the sun. It's the example of a stimulus. Response. What is response? Response, how the organism reacts to a stimulus and results in change in behavior. And in a more attractive way we can say it affects the reaction of the organism towards stimulus. It is called response. For example, getting a drink when you are thirsty. When you are feeling thirsty, you will get a drink. Getting drink will be the response. Some examples of stimuli and their responses. You are hungry, so you eat some food, and a rabbit gets scared, so it runs away. You are cold, so you put on a jacket, and a dog is hot, so lies in the shed. If it starts raining, so you take out an umbrella. Another example is hit the skin with a needle or a pin. Is a good example of stimulus. The sudden removing of the hand is the response. And you hit your hand with the needle, the sudden removing of your hand will be your response, because you are feeling pain at that time. And when somebody bangs a door, you jump if you were unaware because of the sound. You were not mentally prepared about the banging on the door. The jumping is the response to a stimulus. In the same way, holding a hot plate in your hand, you can throw the plate down. Next term is reinforcement. What is reinforcement in psychology? It is a combination of rewards or punishments that is used to reinforce desired behavior or to eliminate or to extinguish unwanted behavior. To reinforce desired behavior and to eliminate unwanted behavior. And reinforcement, it is the process of shaping behavior of the learner. We can shape the behavior of the learner only through reinforcement, either positive or negative. And a child is told to clean the living room. Example of reinforcement. A child is told to clean the living room. He cleans the living room. It shows his behavior. And then allowed to play video games. So video game will act as a reinforcer. If the child cleans his room, he will be rewarded by his parents and he will be allowed to play video games. And if he doesn't, then he will be punished. He will not allowed to play the video games by the parents. In this example, a girl brushes her hair in the morning before the school. It shows her general behavior. And then she receives a compliment at school about her hair, about her hairstyle. This is a reinforcer. And then she brushes her hair more often in the future because she has got compliment in the school for her hairstyle. So these are the examples of reinforcement. Next come the assumptions of behaviorism. What are its assumptions? First one is learning occurs through interaction with the environment. We can learn things only with the interaction with the environment, and the environment shapes our behavior. And taking internal mental states such as thoughts, feelings and emotions into consideration, it is useless in explaining behavior. We will not include the feeling, emotions and other mental processes in the category of behaviorism. Behaviorist approach. One assumption of the behaviorist approach is that we are born as a blank slate and we learn everything from the environment. And the assumptions believes that all humans, male and female, are born the same, and it is the environment and social norms that shape our personality. Our social surroundings and our environment shape our personality. And in behaviorist approach, we learn through conditioning, and there are two types of conditioning: classical conditioning and operant conditioning. So language learning through behaviorist approach. How we can learn the language through behaviorist approach? First point is, language is learned only through use or practice and through habit formation. You will have to form the habit, and it can be learned only through practice again and again. The more the learner is exposed to the use, the better the chances of learning. So we can learn the language in a better way through practice. Second, the production of language depends on the meaningful situations. Which situations created should be meaningful. The production of the language, it depends on the situation which make its use necessary. And language cannot be taught in the divorce from the situation. The teacher has to introduce each new pattern of language in a meaningful situation. Next point, learning takes place faster if the correct response towards stimuli or stimulus is confirmed, and it is still faster if the learner is placed to the situation where he can produce only the correct response. If you will produce the correct response, the learning will be faster. And in behaviorist approach in learning, teacher control the learning environment thoroughly. Teacher is all in all and encourages memorization and repetition. The students learn through memorization and repetition. The learners are corrected as soon as they commit an error. There will be immediate feedback to the students. Their errors will be corrected immediately. And automatic process, and there is no involvement of cognitive process in the brain. It works automatically. And there is a very little room for problem solving for the students. So in behaviorist approach, there are two methods of language learning. First one is grammar cum translation method and second is audiolingual method. Today, I will discuss about the grammar cum translation method. So what is grammar cum translation method? The grammar cum translation method, it has been a very popular method of teaching English, particularly at the initial stage, at the primary stage. It is called the classical method of teaching English. The translation cum grammar method, it has been found in practice since the days of the arrival of British in India. Its origin, it was originated between 16th to 17th century to teach Latin and Greek languages. And in India, this method has been found in practice since the days of the arrival of British. And when the English was introduced here in India in 18th century, then it began to be taught through translation method. Even though our teachers, they are oriented about the modern methods of teaching English and approaches, but they naturally turn to the old and traditional grammar cum translation method. Just as Sanskrit and Hindi, these are taught through the translation method, so also English is commonly taught through this method in most of the schools in the country. And in teaching English through translation method, words, phrases and sentences are taught with the help of mother tongue. Even the grammatical rules in English language, these are also translated in mother tongue, and students are encouraged to learn the grammar of English by rote or mechanical drill. By rote means by cramming, or mechanical drill by repeating this again and again. Next come essential features of grammar cum translation method. First one is English is taught by translating each word and sentence in the mother tongue. Each word and sentence will be translated in the mother tongue. And then the unit of teaching is a word, not the sentence. In other words, we can say each word is translated in mother tongue, and after that, all the words in the sentence are translated. Grammatical patterns in English, these are compared and contrasted with the grammatical patterns in the mother tongue, and that is how English grammar is taught. So practice in translating English phraseology in the mother tongue, it is very essential in grammar cum translation method. The teaching of English through this method, translation of English phraseology is must for a teacher, and it lays stress upon reading. The main emphasis, main focus is on reading grammar cum translation method, and without reading, word for word translation is not possible. And the teacher goes on reading word after word and sentence after sentence, translating them into the mother tongue. In such a method, the students are only passive listeners. They have simply to listen or assimilate what the teacher presents before them. They are not the active learners. Next is principles of grammar cum translation method. The first one is a fundamental process of language learning is to make students able to read language which is superior to the spoken language. Main emphasis is on reading the language, not on the spoken language. So it is the fundamental purpose of learning language through grammar cum translation method. Next point, translating shows language learners are successful at managing more than one language. The learners are managing more than one language, one mother tongue and second foreign language. Next point, communication is not goal of this method. Communication skills are totally ignored while teaching through grammar cum translation method. And little attention is given to the pronunciation, speaking or listening. The teacher is in full charge and language form is very important while teaching through this method. Deductive techniques are used to understand grammar rules. The grammar is taught deductively. Deductively means first the teacher will give the definitions of nouns, pronouns, and other grammatical things and sentence making rules for sentence making, such as the rules in tenses or voices and narrations. Then the student will learn to frame a sentence. First they will have to cram the rules and then they will frame the sentences. In this way grammar is taught through deductive technique in this method. And memorization helps as a mental exercise. A lot of mental work will be done by the students in this method, and memorization, a lot of memorization, it will help student as a mental exercise. Grammatical rules are very important. These are fundamental for language learning in this method. And learning by rote, learning by cramming. These rules are crammed by the student. Next advantage is, what are the advantages of this method? First one, in this method English is taught by translating each word into the mother tongue, and hence it proves to be an economical method of teaching English because it saves a lot of time of the teacher as well as of the student, because student is getting word-to-word meaning in the mother tongue. Then foreign phraseology, it is quickly explained. The foreign phraseology. Phraseology means the way in which words and phrases are arranged in speech or writing of a language, called phraseology. So the foreign phraseology, in English phraseology, it is quickly explained by the teacher by translating it in mother tongue. In comparison and contrast with the mother tongue or original language, it helps in making learning easier and more clear. When student is comparing the two languages, learning will be more easier and more clear for the student. And this method, it is easy and convenient for the teachers. The teacher can also save their time while teaching through this method. And it provides clarity of new and difficult words. Student can get the meaning of new and difficult words very clearly because he is getting the meaning in the mother tongue. And it offers the shortest way to learn a foreign language. That's why this method is very popular till now in India, because it is the shortest way to learn a foreign language. And this method enables students to associate each English word with its equivalents in mother tongue. Student is getting the equivalent word meaning in the mother tongue, and thus it improves their memory power. The meaning of the word that he learned in the mother tongue, it will put a permanent impression on the mind of the student, and it will increase his memory power. He will never forget the meaning of that word. This method is based on the principle of proceeding from known to unknown. Known is Mother tongue is known to the child, and from mother tongue he is learning the foreign language, the English language that is unknown to him. The principle of proceeding from known to unknown is followed in this method. Next point. It is useful for testing the comprehension of the student. Students' comprehension can be tested very easily through grammar-cum-translation method because the student has get very clear idea of the foreign language. It helps in expanding the vocabulary of the students. The vocabulary of the student can also be expanded very easily because he has got the meaning of English language in mother tongue. And no audio-visual materials are required. So it is a very cheap method of teaching English language. It develops the art of translation in students because the student is doing everything. He is doing word-to-word, sentence-to-sentence translation in English language. That's why this art of translation will be developed fully. It helps in disciplining the mind of the student with the help of grammar. When the student is framing sentences, is learning the language with the help of proper grammar, by cramming its rules and framing the sentences, his mind will be disciplined towards the foreign language. In this method, it is fruitful in all classroom situations. In every classroom situations, the grammar-cum-translation method is very fruitful. Whether we have small classes or overcrowded classes, this method is always successful. It provides the correct knowledge of English language. Student can get the correct knowledge of English language only through the grammar-cum-translation. Next, disadvantages. What are the disadvantages of grammar-cum-translation method? Number one, all words and phrases in English have no mother tongue equivalents. This is the biggest disadvantage. And there are certain structure in English which cannot be exactly translated into the mother tongue. There are many structures such as the words like the and cannot find the equivalent words in the mother tongue. In word-to-word translation, sometimes it ruins the beauty of the sentence in English. When you are translating word to word, making sentences in mother tongue, it will ruin the beauty, it will kill the soul of the sentence in English. And this method, it lays emphasis on reading and writing more, and listening and speaking are neglected in this method. More emphasis is on reading and writing of the language. It does not teach correct articulation, intonation and pronunciation to students. Because speech comes first in learning a language with oral work, and since language learning is a process of habit formation, and pupils, the students, they fail to form the habit of speaking the foreign language correctly. And this method, it neglects speech. And students remain very poor in spoken English because they are not given any practice in speaking English language. Only word for word translation is stressed. Next point, it neglects silent reading, model reading and rapid reading in language learning. All these kinds of reading are ignored while teaching through grammar-cum-translation method. And translation is always approximate, as it can never be exact. You cannot find the exact meaning of the English words or English sentences in the mother tongue or regional language. And sometimes it makes teaching learning very ridiculous. Sometimes it happens. And this method, it fails to establish a direct bond between thought and expression in English. Students are unable to establish a direct bond between their thoughts and expression because they are thinking in their mother tongue and then they are trying to translate the word or sentence in English in their mind, and after that they will express themselves in English language. So there is not a direct bond between thought and expression. Next point. Teaching English grammar by comparing and contrasting it with grammar of the mother tongue. It is an unnatural method of learning English grammar. We cannot learn English grammar naturally by comparing the grammar of two languages. And students, they do not understand the real grammar of English and will unable to get it by heart, and thus they fail to use it in speech and writing. This is not a very successful method of teaching English language or teaching English grammar. It lays overemphasis on the rules of grammar. Rules of grammar are overemphasized, and it is not an interesting method of teaching English. It is very dull and uninteresting. Students, they also remain passive listeners and sometimes absent-minded. It is very dull and mechanical. Students only listens to the teacher and they are not active participant in the lesson. Activity on the part of the student is ignored. Next point, it encourages cramming. Student will have to cram the rules of grammar. So this method, it encourages cramming among the students. And it attempts to teach English by rules and not by use. This is taught by rules and practical use of language is ignored. Next point, it is unnatural method of teaching English language. Why is it unnatural? The natural order of learning a language is listening, speaking, reading and writing. This is the way how a child learns his mother tongue. But in translation method, the teaching of language, it starts with the teaching of reading, and therefore it is an unnatural method. Child is not starting with the listening of the language. That's all for today. Thank you very much for watching.